In the previous video, Captain Ri claimed that the protagonist was a spy who was infiltrated in South Korea, and that's why he hadn't introduced her to people before. This lie also saved them from having to explain anything about Se-ri since, as an agent, she could not say anything about her secret missions. I'm Nina and today's recap will be Crash Landing on You. Although most people believed that the woman belonged to Division 11, Mr. Cho didn't buy it much. Later, some of the wives from the neighborhood get together to deliver some plates of food to Ri Jong and try to learn a little more about this story about him having a fiancé. However, as soon as the protagonist appears to help him carry the gifts, they become less suffocating. When the two are alone, Se-ri arranges with the man that as soon as she leaves and they start asking about her, the captain will say that the woman left him. We see in the next scene that Ri Jong's real fiancé, Seo Dan, was studying in Russia and is now back in Korea. However, the man still doesn't know, and as his uncle lent the best car he had to the captain, she intends to make a visit with the excuse of taking the vehicle to go see him. It then shows Mr. Cho going to the bugging department to talk to a man. It seems that the two are directly involved in the death of the captain's brother, and now Mr. Cho wants this man to find out if the captain is planning to do anything about it. Then a microphone is installed outside Ri Jong's house that allows him to listen to everything that happens inside the residence, and the man begins to write down any word that is said in the place. And he remembers years ago, the day of the captain's brother's accident. He was the one who told the trucks where the next target was so they could crush the car, and just before it happened, the man was talking about how proud he was of his brother, that he was a genius at the piano, and that he had composed something for him. The man would show him as soon as he returned home. The listener gets emotional remembering this. The next day, the wives invite the protagonist to help them make kimchi. However, the woman refuses the request, which leads to her being one of the topics talked about at the women's table, as they are all helping to make it. And at the post, when the captain tells his soldiers what he had to do to get the protagonist released from inspection, and Sergeant Kim comments that it looks like what they do in dramas to outwit authority, sometimes the characters even kiss. Ri Jong sends the soldiers to his house to continue repairs, a task he gave to disguise the time the men spend there so they can keep the woman safe and out of trouble. Meanwhile, the captain continues his investigation into the accident that occurred involving the unidentified trucks. The men showed whoever gave them access to the road that they were part of the engineering department that night. However, the man comments that he found it strange that the three carried nothing in their compartments. The man adds about the woman who passed away, and Ri Jong thinks it wasn't an accident with her either, but rather that the woman could have witnessed something. The guard also saw that the trucks had unusual armor on the front of the vehicles. Meanwhile, the protagonist's brother is looking for the scammer who took the company's money. However, in the places where his men are looking for him, he is not there. So his wife suggests that they look in a place that her husband thinks he would never go. She bets that the scammer is there. Returning to the protagonist, the soldiers need to run after a little boy who is a clothesline thief. When they catch him, the child explains that he is doing this because his sister has been unable to open her eyes for days due to hunger. Both of them live on the street, and he needed to get some change to buy something to eat. So Se-ri prepares a bag with several things for the boy to take for him and his little sister. Later, she prepares an award for the soldiers. The woman gives each one a position and a reward for helping her. For the captain, she planted a tomato plant as a thank you. At night, Ri Jong takes Se-ri to the little boat that will take her to the ship. When it's time to get on the little boat, the man decides to go along to make sure she gets on the ship. And since they won't see each other again, they start to tell each other things, like their real names. Suddenly, the little boat is stopped by the authorities, who ask to search the vehicle, and the two hide in the compartment underneath. The protagonist believes that there is nothing left to do, and the captain remembers what his soldier had said about what happens in the dramas, so he tells her not to be scared by what he is going to do, and when the authority opens this compartment, he catches the two kissing. The owner of the little boat explains to the authorities that they hired him to go fishing at night, but as they are young, other things ended up happening. The authority doesn't arrest them or do anything like that, it just orders them to return with the boat immediately, and Se-ri is frustrated to see that the chance to leave the place slipped through her hands. The woman waits for the captain to sleep and leaves at dawn. She leaves him a note, but it turns out that the man heard the gate slam as soon as she left, and when he reads the letter, he goes after her. The protagonist is at the top of a mountain with her sports equipment that took her to North Korea. Before deciding to jump, she tries to contact her walkie-talkie, but as expected, no one responds. Ri-jong comes to Se-ri, and when she realizes that her walk-talk is on, she says that they need to leave the place immediately, as the State Security Department must have already located them. The only thing the two can do is jump, and that's what happens. In Mr. Cho's office, he hands over some money to the eavesdropper, who works directly for him, so the man can buy some meat to give to his son. And in the market, the listener ends up coming across Captain Ri buying coffee beans, perhaps because he is a little nervous because of the man he is watching being in the same place. The man is a little careless when it comes to paying for the food, and a wallet thief takes yours. Ri-jong runs after the thief and tries to keep up with him. However, the captain arrives first at the gang and, in the end, manages to deal with the men surrounding him alone. The eavesdropper thanks Ri-jong for recovering his item, but when he opens his wallet, the thieves take the money. Meanwhile, Se-ri is with the captain's soldiers at her house. He sends the boys there to protect the protagonist if anything happens, and she starts to pay attention to the care the man has for her. She even starts to think that maybe he likes her. Later, two wives from the neighborhood show up at Ri-jong's house to tell the protagonist that today is Young Ae's birthday. If so, they can help their husbands at work, and the two will inspect the gifts to see what is really good. But Se-ri says she won't be able to go and closes the gate in the women's faces. We see Mr. Cho in the next scene. He is talking to that man who didn't know who Captain Ri was and started to interrogate him until the general appeared. This man is sorry for what he did. However, Mr. Cho doesn't care about that. He wants the man to set up a meeting with a contact he has with a person who can find out if the protagonist is really from Division 11. Mr. Cho believes that they can use the woman to bring down Ri-jong's family. Returning to Se-ri, she starts to think that she can help Captain Ri rise in position, so he will have more power to get her out of her place, and one way to do this is by flattering Young Ae, who is the colonel's wife. Senior. So the protagonist goes to the woman's birthday and manages to charm everyone, but especially the birthday girl. She uses her knowledge of fashion and beauty. She even comments that Yoon Ae seems to be younger than Se-ri. The protagonist had to invent a North Korean name so that women would believe she was from the place, and the chosen one was Cho Sam-suk. The captain goes to the engineering repair unit to see if he can find anything about the trucks that were involved in the accident and manages to get a piece of the material that is used to make the armor at the front of the vehicle. And at night, Mr. Cho meets with the man who has access to information from Division 11 to share everything he knows about the protagonist. The man checks and will get back to him as soon as he can. After Young Ae's birthday party ends, Se-ri asks that, if she has the chance, she speaks well of her fiancé to her husband, and the woman promises that she will arrange that. The captain saw that the protagonist was in the house, and so as not to appear as if he was waiting for her, he went up and down the street several times until the two accidentally bumped into each other. The two return home on a bicycle he provided to support their weight. And at the residence, the group has a pleasant evening eating oysters and drinking. Meanwhile, at Se-ri's family home, their father names the girl's brother Se-hyang as the company's new heir, which causes his daughter-in-law and his eldest son to start a fight at the table. They claim that the man is not the firstborn, and they start talking about the things that the man did that harmed the company. The eldest son also adds that Se-hyang wanted to talk to gossip magazines about the protagonist being the illegitimate daughter of the head of the family so that the media would comment that she was not worthy of taking over the company. The man asks his mother to give her opinion, and although the woman never had affection for Se-ri, and now we discover the reason, she says that she thinks her husband made the wrong decision of naming another heir when the protagonist is still alive, fighting to return home. The next day, Se-ri wakes up in the bed in the room, and the captain makes the black coffee that she asked for so much. The man did everything from preparing the beans to grinding and ironing. When Ri Zhang is leaving for work, the protagonist has nothing to give him to thank him for the things he has done for her, so she makes him a little finger heart, which leaves men who have no contact with Southern culture confused. When asking her soldiers what this sign means, one of them explains that she is giving her heart to him, as if saying that she loves him dearly. But there is a small detail in the middle of all this: no one knew that Captain Ri was already engaged to another woman, and when he tells his soldiers, they are in shock, as they have always seen their superior as such a straight-laced figure. Meanwhile, Se Hyung and his wife went to Se Ri's company to collect the tax returns with the protagonist's right-hand man. They made it clear that there may be some changes in the future, and as expected, we know that they want to get along. Get rid of the company. In the next scene, we see the captain's official fiancée taking a taxi to go to his house. As she had already said, she was going to get her uncle's car, but on the way, something unforeseen happened and the car broke down. Seo Dan's salvation was that man who is in North Korea, running away from the protagonist's brother. The scammer offered the woman a ride to the place she wanted to go, and as she had no other option, she ended up accepting. The protagonist ended up going to the market with some wives from the neighborhood. However, as it got dark, it became increasingly dark, as they don't use much electricity, and the woman ended up losing her new friends. So the women go to the captain's house to tell him that Se Ri is lost there, and the man runs there to find her. And Mr. Cho received the call he was waiting for from the man who investigated about the protagonist being from Division 11. As expected, he didn't find anyone with the descriptions he received, and now Ri Zhang may have problems. When the captain arrives at the market, it is very dark and there are many people there, so he decides to buy a candle and hold it up so that the protagonist suddenly goes towards him, and that is what happens. As soon as he finds her, Se Ri's eyes are shining like she's about to cry. At the end of each episode, there is an epilogue that I only discovered in this one, so I ask you not to cut off my head. We see the protagonist on a very high bridge, but there is a beautiful landscape. Seo Dan and Ri Zhang are also in it, and it is only the couple's second date. They took this trip to create intimacy. The woman complained about him only taking photos of the landscape and wanted him to take one with her, so Ri Zhang asked Se Ri to do it. Before taking the photo, the protagonist comments that he deserves someone better, and the photo that was taken on that day, Seo Dan keeps in his wallet to this day. What did you think of these episodes? I hope you enjoyed the summary. Leave your suggestions in the comments and subscribe. If you liked the video, like and share to help me. Until next time.